Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted to be spending this time with you today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest Kevin Murphy, and he's here today to talk to us about his new book, The 3 Rooms. Change your thoughts, change your life. Now, Kevin is a former Wall Street managing director, high school and college wrestling champion, community activist, speaker, coach, and of course, author of The 3 Rooms. During his highly successful 33-year career at Citigroup, Kevin was responsible for sales, marketing, and trading of several different businesses within the firm. He served on the board of directors on multiple option exchanges and spoke at conferences all over the world. So let's welcome to the show, Kevin Murphy.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, what a pleasure it is to have you here. And I have to ask, what was the inspiration behind The 3 Rooms? What inspired you to write that book?
Well, I started having a premonition that I should write, and I kept thinking that it might be a book, and I didn't know what it was about. And I think because I had kind of been on let's say, my own little spiritual journey for about 20-plus years, and this kind of came out of the blue. But a little while later, maybe about 2 weeks after I started getting this kind of premonition I was going to write about something, I just had this image. I was literally in the gym one morning. I was working out, and I had this image of 3 doors. And one was a past door, one was a present door, and the other had a future door. And all of a sudden I had this just strong feeling, okay, this is what I must be writing about. And as I started to write more about it and think about it more, I kept explaining what was behind the doors. And so each room that you would go into, and so that it kind of changed from the 3 doors to the 3 rooms. But the premise was powerful, and it was clear, and it never changed. And the premise is that our experience of life is not based on what we have or what we do for a living. It's based on what we think. And our thoughts can only be in one of 3 places. They can be in the past, or the past room. They can be in the future, or the future room. Or they can be in the present, or the present room. And whichever room your thoughts are in determines your experience of life in that moment. Because, of course, our thoughts can go back and forth. So the key is to know which room your thoughts are in. And in order to do that, you have to observe your thoughts. And it is that active observation that separates your awareness from your thoughts. So you're no longer at the effect of your thoughts, but you are one that is conscious of them. And so I think more and more people really understand today's day and age about how important it is to monitor your thoughts and how they can affect our health, our wealth, our relationships. But we really just don't do a very good job at it, most of us.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. What a profound thing to happen to be able to be in a meditative state or, going throughout your day and having this come to you. It says a lot about you as a spirit and as a person being able to have that awareness to draw those conclusions from what it was that you were getting.
Well, thank you. And I thought what was also very interesting is early on I just wrote all 10 chapters of the book. I just wrote it out when I started thinking about this in the 3 rooms, and I wrote 10 chapters. And for the next 3 years, I literally, while I was, commuting back and forth to my, job in corporate America, on the Long Island Railroad, on the subway systems in New York, I just kept writing in short stories. Or if I saw things and overheard things, and I would write something up, and I'd say, well, this goes in the past room, or, oh, this goes in the future room, or this is about moving from room to room, or this is about the movie theater, and whichever chapter it was. And so it could have been if I was watching a movie or reading a book or seeing an article, whatever it was, things would spur things. And I would just fill in all the chapters. And after about 3 years, I realized all the chapters never changed, and they were all filled in with all these different short stories. And I said, I think I'm supposed to put this book out. So it was a pretty interesting and rewarding experience.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to put that book out too, from what you're saying. I mean, that's quite a profound experience. So let's start with the room of the past. I mean, in your book, you talk about resentment, guilt, and anger. And a lot of times we look at those as kind of pitfalls of personality and what have you. Why would those be something that we would put in the room of the past?
Well, it's typically, so each room, and as you're alluding to, each room has associated emotions with it. And if you really think, the tagline for the book is, change your thoughts, you can change your life. And it's really not actually accurate. It's more of change your emotions and you can change your life. But our thoughts have the biggest impact on our emotions. And so when we look at the past, typically people are thinking about something that, and something that creates a negative emotion, something like an anger or a guilt or a resentment or something that doesn't feel right. It's because they're looking into the past, they're remembering something that happened, and at the time that whatever took place, what someone said, or what they heard or saw, created a negative emotion in them. And then every time they go back in their memory and think about that thought or that situation, it regenerates that same emotion. And so often these are the types of emotions that they generate. And so we all know people that, can pull us into the past room, or, we just see someone. It could be a coworker at work, or maybe your perception was that they did something or said something about you that angered you, and each morning you come in, you see that person, and you get mad again, and you're holding it in, and you can't really let it go. And that happens for so many of us, and so we can get stuck in the past room. But sometimes also we do it to ourselves. And that's really where we got to, start to think, why am I doing this? And there's a really funny quick story that I have a friend, and everyone calls him Uncle Vinny. And he's a very successful person. He owns his own business with his brother, and he's really upbeat and positive. And when he heard about the book, and we were talking about the three rooms, he said, Kevin, I always live in the present realm, and I'm always happy and joyful and appreciative of everything I have. He goes, but I wasn't always like that. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, there was one point, and it was a number of years back. I was in business with my brother, and somebody really did something that kind of screwed me over, and I couldn't get over it. I was so mad at this guy, and I swore I was going to get him back. So I wrote myself a note. And I put it on my desk and said, let's just say his name is Carmine. He said, every day, make sure you get Carmine back. And I would walk into the office and I'd be friendly and everybody, hey, Vinny, what's going on? And everyone would be happy. And then I'd get to my desk and I'd see that note and I'd start seething. And one day my brother came in. He says, what is wrong with you? Like, what happens? And he said, what's this? He said, he picked up the note. He goes, are you kidding me? What is this? He goes, well, I'm going to get that Carmine back no matter what. He said, you gotta let it go. You gotta rip this up. He goes, I'm not letting it go. There's no way. So he goes, my brother ripped it up. He goes, but I wrote a new note. And the next day, I came back in. I was all happy, sat down at my desk, and there was that note again. It was my own reminder that I'm going to get back Carmine. And that went on for a couple of weeks, he said, until finally, every time I ripped it up, every time I put it there, the next morning it would be ripped up, and I would rewrite a new one. And then I got tired of rewriting a note to remind me of being mad at Carmine. And after a while, I forgot I was mad at him because there was no more notes. And so sometimes we can do it. We intentionally hold on to things in the past that don't make us feel good, and we keep going back there. Other times we have reminders. And the whole key about the past room is being aware that you're there, and being aware of how you feel and how something makes you feel. And if it doesn't make you feel good, you need to not just come back into the present, but you need to release the emotion that is tied to that thought and tied to that memory. Because if you don't release the emotion that's associated with that thought, like you have to let Carmine go? Because his name might come up and remind you, oh yes, and if you still hold that bitterness and anger, you're going to re-feel that emotion. But if you can let go of that emotion from Carmine, there's things like, the most important one is forgiveness. And people know that they should be forgiving people, but what holds us back from forgiveness? Everybody has different levels of forgiveness. You hear people say, well, I'm a forgiving person, but that time they crossed the line. And there really is no line in forgiveness. It's just it's an unconditional forgiveness, because forgiveness doesn't let the other person off the hook. Forgiveness lets you off the hook with your emotions. And so that's one of the biggest keys, but really it's letting go of the emotion that's tied to that thought. And when you can change that, if you have that thought again, you're no longer going to feel that negative emotion.
Well, that's so true, because, the only person suffering is the person that has those resentments, and that won't that won't forgive. And my goodness, what a horrible place to be. But what a great story about the note, though. Because that's kind of what people are doing, subconsciously, is they have their notes of unforgiveness that they have taped to their desk.
It's very true. And you're right on the money that, you have to think, how does it make me feel? Because sometimes someone could have said something to you and they're laughing about it, and every day they've already gone on and they're smiling about it, and it keeps eating you up every day. And think about that picture. They did something that violated you, and yet they're fine, and you're suffering. That picture's wrong. And so that's why you have to simply let it go.
Well, in the present and the future room, what are some of the things that we need to be conscious of?
Well, number one, you just hit the most important thing right on the head, which is being conscious of it, of which room you're in. Because the future, if you think about the future room, and think about as far as just health and how thoughts can affect your health. Look at really the number one reason for chronic illness in the country today is stress. And it's people thinking about something in the future that may not go right, and what they can't have, and worrying about the future. And so that's when your thoughts are there, and you're constantly stressing about the future versus creating your own future. That's when you're stuck in the future room. And for the stress, it's thoughts of I can't, and that leads to feelings of stress and insecurity. And really, if you have desires, every time you think I can't, and it forms that feeling of stress, you're actually pushing your desires further away, because you can't attract what you want into your life when your thoughts keep saying, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, and you're feeling the negative emotions of it. But the flip side, and sometimes people say, well, you can't always be in the present because you have to plan for the future. And the difference of planning for the future or creating your future versus stressing about it is that when you're creating your future, you're imagining positive things happening. You're imagining what you would like in the future. So those desires, instead of having desires and then thinking and feeling about all the reasons you can't have it, there's a couple of things you can do that are critical for the creating process in the future. And you're doing it right now in the present. From the present room, you can state your intention or your desire of what you would like. You assume it to be true. And then you focus all of your attention on your intention. Then the second thing would be aligning with your higher self, or with that conscious, being aware that you're in the present room. You're aligning with that same consciousness that's created worlds. And you're now saying a positive, I am good enough, or I already have this, knowing even though it is yet to manifest, you are saying all those positive affirmations. And then the third step, most of all, is feeling the joy of it being accomplished, even though it has yet to manifest. And so when you can feel that joy, now you've stated your intention, you've assumed it to be true, you're stating the positive I ams, and you're feeling as if it's already happened. And the last piece is trust. Trust in that process. And that's where all the faith comes in, that this is going to come. And when you think about visionaries and people who, brilliant people who, have inspired the world and helped change the world for the better, it's all about them thinking about the future with imagination and wisdom, understanding how these laws work, and they are then attracting into their lives all the things they need to do to bring about and manifest that desire. And again, it doesn't mean do nothing. I think sometimes the law of attraction gets a misrepresentation, if you will, by people thinking, well, I'm just going to think positive thoughts, and then when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to have a pile of money at my end of my bed. And it doesn't work that way. But what you think, what room your thoughts are in, and the emotions that they are generating, that is what you project out. And you can project out stress about the future that I can't, or you can project confidence about the future and imagine what you want and assume it to be true.
Well, and I know in your book you talk about that there's a difference between there and here. What do you mean by that?
It's all a matter of looking within or looking without. And one of the main messages in the book is that we all have control over how we feel. And that's really what our whole life experience is about. We all want to feel good. But when we constantly focus on everything we see and hear, and we let that affect how we feel inside, then we're always focusing out there, T-H-E-R-E. And when we focus inward, in here, just H-E-R-E, and we can feel that once we're aware of our internal teacher, if we will, that divine consciousness that we all have access to. And when we focus internally and can feel, love and joy and gratitude just with thoughts, because we all have the ability to think a thought that makes us feel good. And when you start with that, then you can let that affect everything you see and hear. And so it's about losing the T. You can either focus out there, everything out there, which is everything you see and hear, and let it affect how you feel, or you can focus in here and let that affect everything you see and hear.
I think that's just perfect, because a lot of times people, we go throughout our days, we're so busy, we have so much that we're being bombarded with. It's easy to, I think, get tossed into a place where we're kind of going, okay, which room am I in? And even if you bring that awareness to the discussion, it takes a lot of practice, I would think.
It takes a lot of practice, but once again, if you keep asking, if you have something, a tool that says, okay, where am I, or which room am I in? And if you think about it, that the simple answering of that question, which room am I in, or where are my thoughts right now, the simple answering of it requires the separation of your awareness from your thoughts. And so all during the day, if you are asking, where am I, which room am I in, and where are my thoughts, you are constantly becoming more aware of your thoughts, and then therefore less at the effect of them. And there's really nothing more important than that, because the real challenge is it's not about moving into the past room or thinking about things in the past or thinking about things in the future and even worrying a little bit or getting mad because someone spilled something on you, and all those things, we constantly go back and forth. It's not about not going to other rooms, because we do want to go to other rooms. We do want to see, what we don't like, so we know what we do like. But the whole key is not getting stuck in one of the other rooms, in the past room or the future room, when you don't realize you're there. And we know there's people, we all can think about someone who's just constantly negative, and they're always angry about something, and they just constantly keep thinking about the same things, and they feel the same emotions, and they get stuck there. And just like in the future room with the stress and how this is becoming such a big health issue in America today, because people's worrying about something in the future, and from a scientific standpoint, you can say every thought releases a chemical. And those chemicals, if you're worrying about something in the future, and that chemical release, cortisol, which goes into your hormonal system, causing all the stress, that sends a message back to the brain to produce more thoughts similar to those emotions, which creates more thoughts of stress, which creates more feelings of stress, and people get stuck there. And if you get stuck there for days, weeks, or years, then it's really hard to get out of. And people don't realize they're stuck. And that's the key. So if you simply start to get in the habit of saying, so where am I? And where am I is really, you judge it by how you feel. Because it's hard to think, and like I said, we have so many thoughts. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And so constantly monitoring every thought it won't happen. We know that's virtually impossible. So simply putting them in 3 different buckets and basing it on how we feel, and we really don't want to monitor all 60 or 70,000 thoughts, because some of them, they don't have real feelings associated. We see a car drive by. Oh, look at that car. Now we're moving on. That was a thought, but it had no significant impact on us. It had no emotional jolt to us, so it's really insignificant. We don't want to be holding on to those. We want to be holding on to the thoughts that really have a strong emotion attached, because that guy did something to me, and he was talking behind my back. Now I see him, and now I am mad. And that anger and that negative emotion is really, it comes back strong. And that's what keeps us thinking about those thoughts, because there's a strong emotion. But just as there can be a strong emotion from the past, a negative emotion of thinking about what you perceive someone had done to you, or a strong negative emotion about the future, that I'm never going to be able to, how am I going to pay my rent, or where am I going to get, am I going to pass this test, or am I going to get that job, and all of that stress. Instead of that, you can, in the present, be aware of where you are right now, and a few positive thoughts also releases chemicals in your body, but they release positive chemicals in your body, the oxytocins. Those are the kind of things that then start to make you feel good. And you can just as easily start thinking more and more positive things, feeling positive, and that loop, and now you're kind of staying in that present room. So that's, from a scientific standpoint, is how we get stuck in each room. And once again, it's all about knowing and being aware that you're in the wrong room if you're not feeling good.
And what are one of the things that the readers and our listeners can say to themselves if they're not sure which room they're in, to try to decide how to get back to the present room?
It's just, how do I feel? How, when I don't, if I'm thinking about which room I'm in, it's not trying to think, what am I thinking now? Am I thinking in the past? Am I thinking in the future? It's really, how do I feel? And that's where you get things like positive past experiences. Well, the past room's not always bad. People say, well, you need to, what about fond memories from the past? You can learn from the past, or you can remember positive past things. And if they make you feel good, then that's fine. You are right in the present room. You are aware that you are looking into the past. You're recalling positive things that make you feel good. And that's okay. You don't say, well, I don't want that. I remember, this, that great party, or, my wedding day, or my child's, birthday, and that made me feel great, but I can't look in the past room. It's nothing like that. We want to feel good, because remember, we're always in the present. We're always here. And if we're thinking about the past, we're doing it right now. And if we're thinking about the future, we're doing it right now. It's just that when we start thinking about the past or the future, and then something that caused a negative emotion, and now we start reliving that negative emotion in the present, that's how I describe it. We're now in the past realm. Because that negative emotion, and because it's always about what you think and what you feel, then that is what you project out, and that is what you attract back into your life. So it's about that past. And so starting with how do I feel lets you know which room you're in. Not trying to figure out every single thought that we have to determine the room.
Well, and it seems that once you understand the three rooms and let's say, our listeners read your book, they really understand the three rooms and they put it into practice, that it starts to become a habit after a period of time, like, oh, well, which room I am. So, when those thoughts do occur, they don't have to constantly be the guardian. It's just a natural habit that they're looking to make those shifts into what feels better.
Absolutely. And that is the habit that you want to have. Because what is a habit? Constantly looking into the past and being angry about things that have happened and what you perceive other people to have done to you, that becomes a habit. Going to sleep at night, worrying about things for the next day and feeling stress, and then waking up in the morning and feeling that same stress as soon as you wake up, and then going through the same cycle each day, still feeling all of that same stress, those are habits. And those are the habits that form, these unconscious habits that continue to keep negative emotions in us. And so the way to break that has to be that you have to be aware that you're going through that. And like, wow, I'm just constantly in stress. And it doesn't mean you're going to, if you've been doing that for 5 years or 10 years and you're constantly in stress and you're starting to have all these other physical ailments because of that, then that's something that you have to break the cycle. And it starts with being aware of it. And it's the simple question of where am I, or where are my thoughts each day, all during the day, and that becoming a habit, you start going, oh yeah, I'm feeling stress again. Oh yeah, I'm feeling stress again. I really got to stop that. I got to stop thinking about that because I don't want to feel stress. And think about how do people typically, what do they do for stress? I mean, usually it's, unfortunately, people take a lot of medication. And the result is a lot more ailments than they even started with. And all the side effects and everything else. Or you can look at some people who have actually healed themselves, these spontaneous remissions, when people have healed themselves from really strong chronic illnesses. And what do they all say? What's the common factor in all of that is that they've all had a belief in something greater than themselves that was able to heal their bodies. And so breaking from the stress, when you keep saying, where am I? Which room am I in? And you've been in that cycle of stress and always worrying. Every time you say that, once again, if you say, well, I'm in the future room, but even knowing you're in the future room, yes, I'm thinking about this again, and yeah, it's making me stressful, you are now aware of it. And that consciousness, your own consciousness that is aware of it, is now that same connected to that same consciousness that is always in the present room. And that is that higher power, and that is that belief in something greater than us, which the people who are going through these spontaneous remissions are all realizing. And that's what we want to keep connecting to. So you can talk about the scientific side of getting stuck in each room. Then there's the spiritual side as well. And the spiritual side is your higher self, or that divine consciousness, or that source energy that we're all connected to, is always in the present room. As Meister Eckhart said back in the 16th or 17th century, he said, God is always at home. It is us who have gone out for a walk. And that's the truth. It's like your higher self and that divine consciousness if you want to call it, or universal intelligence, or that unified field, or that quantum field. It's all always in the present, and we all have access to it, and we are aware of it. We are awake. We can think positive things, and we can feel that love and that joy and that gratitude. And it's only when we start to focus on things outside of us, of what we see and hear, that creates thoughts and our perception of things that cause us to feel negative emotions. And that's where we want to keep coming back. The negative emotions let you know you're in the wrong room. It's really that simple.
Yeah, in your book you talk about being the inner GPS that's telling us, like, hey, you're in the wrong spot.
Yeah, and there is that, we all are, vibrational beings. Mm-hmm. And I also talk about, think about what is a thought, and how does it affect our emotions so much, and how does it affect us? I mean, a thought is just a vibration that is stored as energy in this field of potential probabilities, just waiting to manifest. And that's what visionaries do. They have thoughts and they have inspired ideas, and they go into this field of potential probabilities, which is the same as that unified field or quantum field or divine consciousness. And all the thoughts are waiting for us there, and they're waiting to manifest. And so just as an inspired idea, you can have that, and that's waiting for you. Negative thoughts are stored there as well. And that, a thought that just, I can't do that. So just, have for instance, let's just say you're sitting in a chair, and you're struggling with back pain. You said, I'd love for this to vibrate and give me a massage. And all of a sudden you have this incredible inspired idea. You say, wow. And let's assume that there's never been a massage chair created. And you say, wow, I think this would be brilliant. If I can make a massage chair, and you think about all the positive things, how it would make you feel and other people feel, and you're just so excited about that. And a little while later you start thinking, well, I don't know anything about massages, and I don't know anything about chairs, and I can't really manufacture them. That's just a dumb idea. And you just squash it. And now you don't think about it again for another year. And all of a sudden that idea comes. Well, in that time, did that idea, what happened to it? Did it just disappear? No, it was a vibration. It is being stored as energy in this field of potential probabilities, waiting to manifest. But in order to manifest that inspired idea, you have to be on the same vibrational frequency as that idea. But you had another idea that followed it that said, I can never do that, and I don't know anything about these, production or massages, and that thought became the dominant thought and emotion. Now, a year later, all of a sudden you're feeling great, good things are happening, you're all inspired, and you're sitting in the same chair, and you remember, you go, wow, remember that idea, the massage chair? I really could do that. I wonder why I never did that. And now you realize you've just, bumped into someone a week ago that manufactures chairs or manufactures office equipment or things like that. And you say, I can call him and we can probably get this going. And all of a sudden you get real excited about it. And now all the pieces start to fall together. And a year later, you've now produced the first massage chair, and it's a huge success. Well, the only difference between when you first thought of it and when you thought of it the second time and it being a success is that you stayed with that thought and the vibrational frequency of that thought, that inspired idea, and I really love this. This is great. This is going to really help people, and you attracted all the right people into your life. But if you kept that negative thought, you're not going to attract those things. And think about how many ideas people have, really good ideas. And they're being stored in this field of potential probabilities. And all of a sudden you think about something, and then 2 years later you see someone came out with this new product, this new idea, and you say, I thought of that 2 years ago. Where did they come up with that? That's my idea. And you hear people say these things. Well, these ideas are up there. But if your thoughts are saying, I know, but I can't do that, and that's really dumb, and I'm never going to be able to do that, then you can't attract it into your life. So that's where it's the whole creative process and thinking about thoughts. It is all vibrations, and we are all part of this whole unified field, this quantum field, this consciousness. That's what makes up everything. And really, our thoughts can manifest into what our desires are, and they are going to manifest. Whether you're saying I am and I can, that will manifest. If you're saying I am not, that will manifest. And that's why I really think it all comes down to one word makes all the difference in your thoughts. And it's substituting one word. Because if you think of your thoughts, it says I am. It's the great I am. That's your awareness of being. And if you constantly keep thinking, I am not good enough, I am not smart enough, I'm not able to do this, then that is going to prevent you from achieving what you want. If you take out that word not and you replace it with already, and you can stick it in between the I already am, that changes everything about your makeup. Now you're not even just saying, I am good, or I am able to do this, but maybe not. And you can't even let doubt come in, because you're saying, I already am something. You want to be a singer. I already am a great singer. Or I already am producing these chairs. And when you come from that place of I already am something, everything you do is from a perspective of it's already happened. And that creates an expectation. I am not, using the word not in your thoughts creates doubt. I already am creates expectation. And that is the key to whether people succeed in attracting their desires into their life or they don't succeed.
Well, my goodness, we can talk forever, Kevin. You have so much great information in your book, The Three Rooms. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community?
Well, there's a website, www.the3rooms.com.
Perfect. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Well, thank you so much, Marianne, for having me on. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, Kevin, it's been such an honor to spend this time with you, and of course, to talk about your new book, The Three Rooms. Again, you can visit Kevin's website at the3rooms.com to learn more about his new book and also become part of his community. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.